So, I'm back. I've recently moved into the void. And I am sad to report that I did not get my PhD. I am not Dr. Octavian. Doc Ock, if you will. That's just something I had to get off my chest. So this is a list of social seduction games. Wrong video. Social deduction games. This is not a top 10 list. I really can't iterate that enough. This is not a top 10 list. Because the differences between social deduction, hidden role, traitor mechanics, all of that would just make for a messy list. I would either show clear preference for one of the mechanics, or I would end up on Reddit and people would be yelling at me as to what qualifies for a social deduction game. I'm sure they'd be breathing down my neck telling me something stupid like, well, this isn't a social deduction game because it only uses a traitor mechanic. Or, something along the lines of, Avalon is set in the medieval times and everybody knows all social deception games are set in the future. Like, fucking head asses. Get out of here. I will congratulate Reddit on defeating the hidden boss that was the stock market. Power to the players or whatever GameStop's slogan is. Anyways, that was r/Wall Street Bets, not r/board games, which I don't want to be on because they would call me a liberal or something. Speaking of libs who don't really understand things, let's talk about our first game. So the first game is Secret Hitler. All of the information is up on your screen right now. This is made by the creator of Cards Against Humanity and Humans vs. Zombies. Roles are passed out at the beginning of the game. If you are a fascist, your goal is to enact 3 fascist policies, then nominate the player who is Hitler as the chancellor. If you are a liberal, then your goal is to pass 5 liberal policies or assassinate the secret Hitler. The best part is, Hitler doesn't even know who the other fascists are, but the fascists know who Hitler is. So the fascists do most of the legwork, and then Hitler kind of just gets all the credit for it. Basically, Hitler's just trying to lay low long enough to kind of just snag the dub. How policies are passed is pretty interesting, but I think this actually kills the game for me in the long run. Everyone has to be quiet during the policy selection process. The president picks up 3 cards randomly, discards 1, and hands the remaining 2 to the chancellor, who then picks between the 2. If a fascist policy is enacted, and here's the problem with the game, the argument is always, well, the president handed me 2 fascist cards, and then the president either denies it or says, well, I drew 3 fascist policies, there's nothing I could do, which can and has happened. This seed of plausible deniability on both ends gets you fucking nowhere. Your only solution is pretty much don't pick them ever again as president or chancellor. And this is how the game proceeds until you've basically iced out all of your options. The fascists usually will end up just enacting a liberal policy to save themselves because they only need 3 to win, you need 5. And at the end of the game when you're left to assassinate somebody, you're basically just left doubting everybody and maybe even yourself. This is how almost every high-level game of Secret Hitler plays out. And by high level, I mean anybody that has played it twice. I think this has the best presentation out of all of the games in the category, and it's a really fun party game to play with people who have never played the game before. So I've mentioned Avalon in at least one other video that I've made before, and like I've said, this holds a special place in my heart. The very first time I played the game, before the game was even over, I had ordered it online to be shipped to my house. I'll just say this, I know that the limit for the game is technically 10 people, but 7 to 8 is my preference because some of the roles are absolutely insane. While some players just get the minion of Mordred or good guy and don't have any special abilities, there's all these ridiculous roles that let you know who everybody is. It's ridiculous. So I like to leave out 1 or 2 of the roles at least so that the game is a little bit more balanced, because once you get 10 people, it's just a big shitfest. The only role that I will mention in particular is Merlin, who is by default in every single game. Merlin starts the game by knowing who the imposters are. The imposters know who each other are, and that's about it for them. Players get chosen by the king, who is someone different every round, to go on a quest. At this point, everybody in the game gets to vote to decide whether to confirm the group or deny them this vag-tastic voyage. You can't just go around denying every group though, because if groups get denied too many times, the game just ends and the bad people win. Seriously though, if you don't confirm a group, the good guys just auto-lose. So once a group is confirmed, the chosen ones anonymously vote on whether or not the quest succeeds. Any fail in the batch makes the entire quest fail. The first team to 3 wins. Good guys can only vote to succeed, but there are so many cool instances of the king accidentally put both bad guys on the quest, and they both failed it, and now we know who they are. The mechanic that separates this game from Secret Hitler, because let's be honest, how you vote and picking the president and the chancellor is very similar to this game, is that if the good team gets to 3 successful quests, the game isn't technically over yet. If the liberals enact 5 liberal policies, the game's just over in Secret Hitler. But in Avalon, the bad guys get to reveal themselves, and then they make a guess as to who they think Merlin is. And if they guess correctly, the game is over, they win. It doesn't matter if you've gotten 3 successful quests in a row. If the bad team knows enough or has gotten enough knowledge from the scenario, then they win, which is fucking amazing. Merlin is cursed with this knowledge of knowing who the bad guys are and can't fucking say anything, cannot give it away. And the best moments in this game is definitely at the end of a game, especially if it's like a blowout or something like that, where it comes down to the bad guys genuinely have no idea who Merlin is. You've done your job correctly. This, no joke, has created some of the best moments that I've had playing board games and even inside jokes between my friends. For a while, my role on Discord was just Merlin, and it was such a fucking good time. God. If you haven't watched my top 10 board games of 2020, it's not on there, but it would have been if I actually had friends. So the next game is actually set in the same universe as Avalon. Technically, they are all part of the Resistance line of games. They're all basically different versions and different themes of social deduction games. Back in the 2010s, you really couldn't go wrong if you showed up to a party, unbuckled your belt, and whipped out anything with "The Resistance" written on it. So in Coup, you are the head of a powerful family in basically what is an Italian city-state. Set in the distant year of 2025, you need to manipulate, bribe, and bluff your way into power before you and your family get assassinated. Similar to Love Letter, which is a game that I've already done a review on, this is called a micro game. The only reason that this game even takes 15 minutes is because you have multiple rounds per game. There are only 5 roles, and each of them let you do a bunch of different things, like get more money, block people from getting money, kill other people, or prevent yourself from being killed. The point of getting money in this game is that when you have enough, no one can block you from murdering another player in cold blood. When you're killed, your card limit, basically your rolls, go down from 2 to 1, because everyone starts with 2 different rolls, meaning that you have 1 less roll and less influence throughout the entire game for the rest of the round. The fun part comes around when you realize that all cards are face down for the entire game. You can just straight up lie about whatever your role is. Someone could say, "I've paid enough money to assassinate you," and you go, no, I'm the Contessa, you can't actually assassinate me. The only thing you can't do is get caught, because if I'm not actually the Contessa, I go to jail, meaning I lose one of my rolls, or die, basically. If you call somebody's bluff, and they turn out to be telling the truth, then you lose a card. So if you say you're the assassin and that you're going to assassinate me, I say I'm the Contessa, you're not going to assassinate me, and they say bullshit, and I flip over my card to show them that I am the Contessa, they lose one of their rolls. If not, their only roll, which means they're out of the game, so it's a very risky thing to do. Sometimes you can even call a bluff when you know that they're telling the truth, meaning someone can say I'm the Duke, and because the Duke is a really powerful card that gets a lot of coins or keeps other players from getting coins, you just call out that they're not the Duke so that they are forced to show the Duke, because once you show your card, you have to get a new one. So they could switch to the Ambassador, which is a worse card, or they can switch to Contessa or something like that, right? So you can take away somebody's power by getting rid of one of your own. And I think that dynamic for a game whose rounds last like 5 minutes is amazing. This is a surprisingly fun game that sold pretty cheaply at stores like Target and pretty much everywhere. It's also on Tabletop Simulator, so if you're in the Discord and you want to give it a shot, just hit me up. Games on Tabletop Simulator. Digital versions of board games. I might do a video on that soon. I mentioned Love Letter when I was talking about Coup, so I might as well talk about it here. Like I said, I already did a video on this one, so go watch it. No, seriously. Go watch it. No free views here. Get out of here. This game has a mandatory companion app, something that I'm also sure you'll be hearing about in a future video. You select the roles that you're playing with, set up the player cards as normal, hit play, close your eyes, and let the game do the rest of the talking. Your goal is to figure out who the werewolves are and exterminate them. But with roles like Robber and Seer, you can really force certain arguments and engagements. For instance, Werewolf 1 says, "I'm the Seer, so I can't be the werewolf." Werewolf 2 says, "I'm the robber, and I switched with this person, so now I'm the Seer, so neither of us can be werewolves." And then the actual Seer says, "Actually, I'm the Seer, and the card that I looked at in the center pile is the robber, so both of you are lying, and you must both be werewolves." And the Troublemaker says, "I'm the Troublemaker, and I switched Werewolf's 1 card with the Seer's card." Then everyone agrees to kill the Seer. These rounds are honestly insane simply because of all of the factors you have to consider and how out of control everything is, and the game gets more fun when people who start out as Werewolf really commit to the bit and thinks that they haven't been switched out and is like, yes, I can't be the Werewolf, I'm just this random role, and they commit to it. There is no stopping them. It becomes really fun. Casually sliding by as the Werewolf because people are constantly accusing each other or trying to figure out what their own roles are is a really good feeling. The other roles in the game are closer to typical Mafia, so I won't be explaining the rest. This is one of those games where I have to mention if I'm going to play it at a game night, we usually play a bunch of rounds of it, and then I let it sit on my shelf for like a year. Similar to all other games that are just hit and roll games, there's always a strategy that works best and gets developed and doesn't change from game to game. I often find myself, like I said earlier, in the later rounds where I just don't care if I get Werewolf or if my card gets swapped and I go from being Town to being a Werewolf. At that point, I no longer try to win, and I'm just like, yeah, just kill me so that Town wins. I mean, that's the point of the game, right? This game is actually a great case of too much of a good thing. Like I said, this is a game that when we play it, we play a lot. So I don't think I've actually played the game for about a year and a half now. I've gotten that burnt out on not only social deception games, but especially One Night Werewolf, to where I just haven't played it in a long time. Yep, that's it. No other reason I haven't played a social deduction game that requires 10 people in the past year. There's no reason why in 2020 I wouldn't have met up with a large group of people and played this game. Alright, Mafia is the OG card game that started it all. Well, not really, it was just the most accessible one that got everybody into social deduction games. Everyone's played this game, everyone's played with different rules, different roles, house rules that people make, it's kind of ridiculous. Or everyone's played with a certain moderator of the game that skips over voice lines when people die, like, medic, who do you want to save, but the medic's dead, so they don't say it. And then you wake up, and then of course somebody's gonna point out, oh, well, they didn't say medic, raise up your head, so we must have killed the medic. Ridiculous, don't do that shit, it's annoying as hell. I've had some really good times playing this game, and I've had some really bad times playing this game. From people throwing temper tantrums and storming out of parties to others who wake up and say, I heard Octavian move in the middle of the night, so they must be Mafia, let's kill them. Ridiculous. Fuck you. Yeah, fuck you, by the way. I don't know if you're watching this video, but fuck you. You know who you are. You gotta stop doing that. I swear to God, it's not a reason to sus somebody. Even if you were right every single time and I was Mafia, I fucking hate it. So if you're like me, you grew up unsupervised on the internet, and if you didn't pay for the IRL Friends DLC, you probably couldn't play Mafia in person either. You probably played Town of Salem online. I don't have anything else to say about this game except I know that I just unlocked some deeply repressed memories in some people. So I went over this actually in my very first top 10 list. Hidden movement is a form of social deception and a very popular mechanic in some of these games that if I didn't include it on this list, I'd feel kind of bad about. I just feel like it's a very popular mechanic and subgenre, which is why I'm going to include it. You know what? It's my video. I don't have to explain to you what's on my list or why it's not a top 10 video. I already said it wasn't a top 10 list for that very reason. Fuck you. So Jack the Ripper is running around stealing foreskin. Jack the Ripper is running around Lego City and pushing people into rivers. Hey! At least I think that's how the lore goes. Everyone else plays as cops trying to... Wait a minute. Cops? Being the good guys? In 2021? 0 out of 10. Next game. Okay, so we're not cops in this one. We're just investigators. Okay, let's clear that up first. This time around, one of the investigators might also be the murderer. The roles are really simple, and it's actually kind of similar to Trouble in Terrorist Town, which I'm not going to talk about, I'm just going to mention it because, again, repressed memories. Basically, you have the forensic scientist or the investigator, you have witnesses, murderers, and accomplices. My favorite part of this game is that the forensic scientist actually knows how everything fits together, but is not allowed to say a fucking word the whole time, similar to Avalon with Merlin. Except in this game, everybody knows who the forensic scientist is, and they have to give out these vague clues like some sort of murderer oracle. It's the job of the investigators throughout the entire game to listen to whatever semi-transparent clues that these forensic scientist wants to give. Meanwhile, the bad guys are injecting misdirection and misinterpretations of whatever those clues are. We love upping the ante here on the channel, so for every game that the murderer wins, we let them murder somebody at the table if they get away with it. So one of the games that I didn't really talk about, but I should before I end this, is Sheriff of Nottingham. Yes, calling Sheriff a social deception game is probably pushing it. However, the crux of the gameplay is lying and bluffing and bribing people. And if you're interested in hearing more about that game, my last review was actually on Sheriff of Nottingham. You can click on that at the end of the video. There will be a link. There will actually be a playlist as well to see my greatest hits, the bangers, the certified hood classics of board games. Anyways, I would like to thank all of my Ko-fi contributors and my subscribers. If you aren't subscribed already, why the fuck not, dude? It's 100% free. It's literally cost you nothing to hit that motherfucking button. Because my uploading schedule is in limbo and also kind of just pure trash, be sure you ring that MF bell. And in case you don't feel like ringing that MF bell, you can always follow me on Twitter for updates or Ko-fi. It's free. All of it's free. You don't have to pay for anything. There's no content that's locked behind anything. That's how we do it. Or if you want to join the Discord for memes for some more constant bean-on-bean action. The comment question for this video is, what is your favorite social deduction game? Clearly, since I cannot make a definition of what that is for myself, you don't have to do one either. Honestly, you could tell me Uno and I just have to fucking believe you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the comments down below.